Pro-Khalistani terrorists go on the rampage. Two Hindu temples attacked by a Khalistani mob. Hindu devotees targeted and assaulted. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police back the pro-Khalistan thugs. Prime Minister Narendra Modi puts Canada on notice. Prime Minister says India's resolve will not weaken. Justin Trudeau condemns the attack, but mum on the Khalistani mob. Canada's anti-Hindu attack is our top focus on India First. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is hit out at Canada for the deliberate attack on Hindu temple and the cowardly attack and an attempt to intimidate Indian diplomats in Canada. He took to social media platform X to say India expects Canada to ensure justice and uphold rule of law. But will Justin Trudeau act against the Khalistani elements? Why are we asking this question? Historically, even his father, Pierre Trudeau, took no action against these Khalistani terrorists, and unfortunately that inaction resulted in the bombing of Air India aircraft Kanishk that killed 321 people. 321 people were killed in a mid-air explosion in that Air India aircraft. 2 more people were killed in that Air India aircraft explosion that took place in Tokyo. We exposed these Khalistani goons, including the thugs in uniform, wearing the uniform of Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the people who assaulted innocent victims of these Khalistani thugs. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We get you all details. Hindu devotees, including women and children, at the Hindu Sabha temple were targeted by Khalistani thugs, goons and mafia in Canada. Videos showed a group of men wielding sticks and the Khalistani flag attacking devotees as they entered the temple. A similar riot-like situation occurred at the Lakshmi Narayan Mandir, and this time in Surrey, again in Canada. This was followed up by a massive protest by Khalistani thugs outside the temple. Not just that, there was a camp organized by Government of India, by the Ministry of External Affairs, consular assistance camp. The Khalistani thugs disrupted that. What's even more shocking is that Justin Trudeau's police, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, caught on camera siding with the Khalistani thugs. In fact, off-duty policemen were a part of the protest, and that brings us to a bigger question on this show. Were the police complicit? Was this a part of a wider state-sponsored vandalism? And what was the message that Canada is trying to send out to Hindus in Canada and India?
Khalistan supporters attacked Hindu devotees at temples in 2 cities of Canada. A group of Sikhs with Khalistani flags wielding sticks was seen entering the Hindu Sabha Mandir premises in Brampton on Sunday. Videos showed the assailants targeting devotees outside the temple, where the Indian High Commission had organized a consular camp.
When the Khalistanis came to our temple, how dare they come to our temple and assault people in our temple? And the cops, instead of standing with the temple, instead of standing with us, they arrested our own people. So is this two-tier policing? Are the police there for everybody, or are the police only there for the Khalistanis?
A similar attack unfolded at the Lakshmi Narayan Mandir in Surrey. Video showed Khalistani supporters raise anti-India slogans. The protesters later turned violent, targeting pro-India voices. There was high tension in Surrey as the police used force against the temple devotees and detained one or more Hindus from the compound, leading to protest by the community.
All the police officers hitting us. Everybody.
After the attack on the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton by Pro-Khalistani hardliners, the priest addressed a gathering and called for unity.
अब ये एक हमला कोई हिंदू सभा पर नहीं है, ये हमला पूरे वर्ष में दुनिया में जितने हिंदू हैं सबके ऊपर है। No peace, no! No justice, no! That's not right! That's not right! He's a king! He's a king! He's a king!
The temple trust called for a thorough investigation and demanded the sacking of a police officer who allegedly assaulted a young devotee.
Temple committee requested to the police to reinforce more policing, and they also, asking the people to just be calm and peaceful. We strongly condemn such incidents that Hindu place of worship is being attacked, and inactive action from political leadership or administration.
The Ontario Sikh Gurdwara body condemned the attacks, calling for peace, unity and respect within the community. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemned the acts of violence and said everyone should feel safe in their place of worship. Canadian MP Chandra Arya stated that Khalistani extremists had crossed a red line and accused the Trudeau government of failing the Hindu community in Canada. The Indian High Commission posted photos from the consular camp held in Brampton, which were attended by a large number of Sikh community members. The High Commission said the Canadian authorities were informed about the camp well in advance in view of the security concerns. The statement added that other consular camps that are scheduled will depend on security provided by the Canadian government. Bureau Report, India Today.
So after two temples were targeted by Khalistani thugs in Canada, the temple Purohit, the priest, he was forced to come out and tell Hindus and Sikhs in Canada, batoge to katoge, that if Hindus and Sikhs get divided, then they'll be cut down. In Brampton and Surrey, the Khalistanis are desperately trying to create a wedge between the Hindus and Sikhs. And the big question we're asking here on this broadcast, is this happening with the blessings of the Justin Trudeau government? Is there a wider deep state role here? Joining me on this India Today special broadcast is Daniel Boardman. He's a senior correspondent with the National Telegraph. Joins us from Toronto. Puneet Sahni is joining us to talk about the evolution of Sikh identity and Khalistani terrorism. He joins us from New York. And Ambassador Veena Sikri is a former top Indian diplomat joining us on this special broadcast. But Daniel, I want to come to you first and understand. The Khalistani thugs, they first attacked Hindu devotees. Then the RCMP attacked the devotees. And in one instance, an off-duty RCMP officer was seen as part of the protests holding a Khalistani flag. What do you make of it?
So, and this is a bit my fault because I got some information from someone in Surrey who got it from another person in Surrey who got the video from Brampton who thought it was Surrey. So the RCMP officer you're talking about is actually a Peel Region police officer. So it's the Peel Police, and it's an off-duty Peel Region police officer that's involved in all of this. So it's not the federal RCMP. The RCMP is federal. Peel Region is sort of the people responsible for Brampton, Mississauga, what you know as the GTA. So the problem we're talking about here was the violence from Peel Police against them. And what people are making it in Canada is this is really crossed some lines, and this has now become a Canadian national story. For the longest time, all Hindu issues were ignored. If you watched Canadian news on anything in the last year, India-Canada related, you would have no idea what planet you're on. You would have no idea what's going on. But now it's come full circle. Like, everyone has seen it. We have video of people with flags that say Khalistan on them, whacking people. You see the fact that they let the Khalistanis set up right outside the front of the Monder, and then the police came into the Monder and were trying to push the Hindus further into the Monder on their own private property. Like, that's not, you don't have really jurisdiction to do that. And then we saw this one Peel Region police officer leave the crowd. It wasn't like a confrontation. Maybe someone said something, but again, free speech, you can say whatever you want. Because he heard someone, I guess to be fair to him, he heard someone say something and then went and full on attacked him. And then the other police officers came in and also attacked and started beating people with batons. But one rule for extremist radicals, Islamists, Antifa, Khalistanis, one rule for them, one rule for the rest of Canada. And it's driving everyone crazy.
It indeed is. It just appears as if Canada is becoming an apartheid state against Hindus. The manner in which the Peel police targeted Hindus who were victims of Khalistani terrorists and were beaten up once again by the police. But Puneet Sahni, in your appreciation, is this a Khalistani attempt to drive a wedge between Hindus and Sikhs? This does appear to be a very concerted effort to show that Sikhs and Hindus are not together. And I want to understand from you, aren't these Khalistani thugs going against the very basic teachings of the 10 Guru Sahibs?
No, Jai Bharti Sahib, and of course, it's going against, and this, it doesn't matter the teaching. So I give you in succinct what we had in terrorism for a decade. That was basically, like a Jat-Sikh civil war. On one side was Dharmik Jats under KPS Gill, and the other side were ISI puppets, these Khalistanis. And the thing is, in Jats, you have a concept of a blood feud. You have everywhere, even in India, in America, across the world, you have this. So these people who basically escaped to Canada, they have nothing to do with Sikhi. They have nothing to do with justice. For them, it is a blood feud. कि Gaurav Sawant ने अगर मेरा भाई मारा, इसका मैं भाई मारूं. That is the mindset. And what our government, of course, it doesn't understand the nuances. They said, नहीं जी नहीं, आपके साथ कोई बुरा हो गया, हम आपका दिल जीत लेते हैं. Bhai, you have basically desecrated the sacrifices of the Punjab police. And to Gaurav, give you an example. What was the sacrifice? We all respect the army. Compare what a Punjab policeman fought to compare what an army fought. The day Sukhdev Babbar, of the head of Babbar Khalsa was killed in India. Do you know they killed 37 policemen and 63 of their family members? If you're an army man and you go and fight Pakistan, you are assured, your kids and wife will be well taken care of. Your kids will get education. You will have, where Punjab police was fighting, they were like, your family would be wiped out if you speak against Khalistanis. And these people fought, and these people are not celebrated, and the government is removing the blacklist of them. And such is their terror. I give you an example. So, for example, you said the Ontario Gurdwara Committee has, signed it, condemning it. What is very interesting is you look below, nobody has signed their name. They know if they sign their name, fear of Khalistan. They will make example of. I give you another example. Just last month, this temple that has been attacked, this Lakshmi Narayan Mandir. What happened was, when Conservative Party people, they were sending, when they wanted to meet them, they were sending Khalistanis. So the temple wrote a private letter to the Conservative Party that if you have to send us people, we have no problem. Send Hindus, send Sikhs. Don't send us Khalistanis. This letter
send Hindus, send Sikhs, don't send Khalistanis. That's the message. And unfortunately, that is the terror of Khalistanis in Canada. Unfortunately, the Justin Trudeau government or even the Conservatives, even Pierre Poilievre, it seems, doesn't seem to appreciate and understand this. That's the fear. Even he's scared to name the Khalistanis. But Ambassador Sikri, the Indian High Commission, it organized a camp for Indians in Canada so that they could submit their life certificate. That's usually done in November, December. It's for all the consular issues that they had. The Khalistani thugs, they disrupted it. India repeatedly sought additional security for this camp, yet that security was inadequate. Does this show direct complicity of the Justin Trudeau administration?
Well, it is completely strange, exactly as you have said, that it is only after the Indian High Commission announced that it's going to have the consular camp and asked for security to ensure that it's conducted peacefully, that suddenly these people came on the scene. Instead of the police coming in to protect the camp and ensuring that it goes peacefully, because after all Indians were being served. Hindus were being served in the camp, Sikhs were being served in the camp. Anybody who needed help on consular issues, whether they were Canadian Hindus or Canadian Indians or Indian NRIs living there, they were all there to seek their assistance. But the RCMP, instead of protecting the camp, allowed the Khalistani thugs to break the gate and enter the temple premises and attack those who were there inside, including the Indian High Commission officials, as well as the people seeking assistance. And in fact, the policemen now, where he have said that we've arrested 3 people, but all these are the Hindus. They're not, none of the Khalistani thugs who were there with their flags have been arrested. So I think that everything points to some kind of definite connivance, and there have been visuals sent by individuals on WhatsApp showing that the policemen were warning the Hindus, don't touch the Khalistani flag. So, it's a kind of a bid to divide this bridge or create a divide between the Hindus and the Sikhs. In fact, Honorable Minister Ramdeep Bittu has spoken about it also. And I think that everybody, the Hindus, the Sikh communities, the vast majority of whom are completely moderate and absolutely not interested in Khalistan, we should all be getting together. I think our Prime Minister's statement on the subject is very clear, is very dynamic and very strong. And I'm sure that we will be continuing, every effort to conduct the consular duties as they should be conducted. And
in fact, India should up the ante. Every Khalistani should be identified and publicly named and shamed, Puneet Sahni, because these Khalistanis want to show that Hindus and Sikhs have nothing in common. But isn't that an absolutely wrong appreciation of Sikhi? Because I want to understand, because I've heard this many times, the name of Bhagwan Sri Ram and Bhagwan Vishnu, it's mentioned many times in the Guru Granth Sahib. I've been told that Guru Sahibs used to worship, Shakti, initially the Vaishnav, religion, and then the Shakti. What are Khalistanis trying to do? And tell me about this appreciation of Sikhi.
So, I can explain. Of course, it's Vaishnav. So when Guru Tegh Bahadur, who was killed by Aurangzeb, his last words are basically, take ek Raghunath. Now SGPC or this Khalistanis can say anybody. You ask anybody in India who is like 10-year-old, what does Raghunath mean? And they said Raghunath doesn't mean your Raghu. Of course, Shri Ram. So last words of father of Guru Gobind Singh and, who was killed by Aurangzeb, he says, take ek Raghunath. Focus your mind as, and that will basically give you salvation. And so the thing is that, but Gaurav, I want to look at it another way. Forget about Hindu, Sikh or whatever. When your argument is theological, I'm talking about sociological. So there is a community A and there is a community B. If they, intermarry daughters with each other, this is the highest thing. You can't do anything. Like I'm in America, Indians marry with Indians, Chinese marry with Chinese. Okay, we are Chinese Indian, we are Indian American and Chinese Americans. We are not the same because we don't intermarry our daughters with each other. I'm talking even, you marry in your caste and you don't marry the other caste. At one point where you start intermarrying daughters with each other, that from a sociological perspective, if you look in any community, anywhere in the world, in any period of time, they are essentially the same community. And Hindu and Sikhs have this intermarriage of, we just don't give daughter, we accept daughter. So what nonsense are they saying? But again, what I'm saying,
Bilkul.
Right. And this is again, you see, even there is no other community. Or maybe like even in Jains, they also do it, and that's why it's the same. So any community, forget the theological thing. If they are giving daughter and accepting daughter for all purposes, of course, people can do divisions. They are the same community.
They
So
are
Hindus
the
and
same
Sikhs are
community.
one.
Hindus and
Khalistanis
Sikhs are
and
the
Jihadis
same.
are
That's
one.
a very important message because Daniel, political leaders in Canada, and that is something I want to understand from you. You can guide us better. Why is it that political leaders are unwilling to call out Khalistani terror or Khalistani extremism or these thugs? From the Air India bombing to the biggest drug bust to gun running to human trafficking, the Khalistanis are doing it all, but Justin Trudeau appears to be scared. Pierre Poilievre doesn't call out the Khalistani terrorists. Why?
So it's a confluence of factors, but listen, you're right. The majority of Sikhs are not Khalistanis. The majority of Sikhs are anti-Khalistanis. In fact, when you want to get a coalition of anti-Khalistanis together in Canada, the first people you're going to run into are Sikhs, right? Now, the problem is Khalistanis are far more likely to get into politics, and they also get funding from Pakistan and China to help them in their political endeavor. And Khalistanis will tell Canadian politicians that they are the Sikh community. This is an old tactic of extremists, right? Whether it be the Muslim Brotherhood claiming to represent all Muslims or the Khalistanis claiming to represent all Sikhs, this is the dominant view in Parliament because a lot of Khalistanis have got in. There are far more Jagmeet Singhs than Usul Dosanjhs in Canadian politics. That's the unfortunate part right there. So you also see that there's a mentality, though, in the Canadian left and in the Western left growing, right? This sort of tolerance of extremism. Why do we have pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah people in the streets? Are all these people radicalized inside the mosque, like the white people? No. This is a natural offshoot of what would be termed woke ideology, intersectional mingling. So the narrative that Khalistanis can sell to the Canadian public is actually very streamlined among the mainstream academic left, which is there's oppressors and there's oppressed. Sikhs are oppressed by Hindus because India's majority Hindu, they're oppressing a Sikh minority. Now, this is not true, but it sounds true to a Westerner. So by using that heuristic, Khalistanis have been able to push that narrative very effectively within the halls of power and academia.
And this is where India and Indians, Hindus, Sikhs, all Indians world over need to come out and state facts very clearly, very plainly. Ambassador Sikri, Prime Minister Narendra Modi commented on the targeting of Hindu temples and devotees in Canada. In your appreciation, is this that red line that's been crossed, that Lakshman Rekha that's been crossed? But will Trudeau do anything? Or like his father did nothing on terrorism, he'll do nothing on terrorism?
Well, Prime Minister Trudeau is certainly pressing the red lines very, very hard. We just saw recently that when Prime Minister Trudeau's government named the Indian High Commissioner in Canada as a person of interest in the investigation, I mean, it was an absolute red line being crossed because under the Vienna Convention, there's nobody, it's unprecedented. I don't think there's any case in the world where a high commissioner or an ambassador had been named in this way. And as a result, of course, we withdrew our high commissioner, but we also expelled the Canadian high commissioner in New Delhi along with other senior diplomats. And after that, the Prime Minister Trudeau crossed another red line by saying that the remaining Indian diplomats in the High Commission of India would have audio and video surveillance. There is this again is against any Vienna Convention on the rights of diplomats posted in different countries. So deliberately, for his own domestic vote bank politics, Prime Minister Trudeau is crossing one red line after another. And certainly, as we saw in our Prime Minister Modi's statement today, he has taken very, very great objection to it and has said that we are going to steel our resolve even further to make sure that we are able to explain ourselves to the rest of the world. And I think that this is exactly what we have to do in a big way. And I think there will be even further action because Prime Minister Trudeau's government seems to have no holds barred at the moment. I think maybe it is the outcome of the American elections which may, yield some difference in the handling of the situation from the Canadian and the American government. But I know in a couple of days from now. But otherwise, it's a terrible situation.
It indeed is a terrible situation. Will Canada act against these Khalistani elements or that Peel police officer who in plainclothes was a part of the Khalistani gang? It just shows there's no difference between the lawbreakers and the law enforcers. They're all mafia running together. Canada should be worried in case these Khalistanis are running drugs and guns and human trafficking in your country. The biggest drug bust took place recently.
Yeah, everything you say is true. Now, I'm going to offer a ray of sunshine here. I'm not sure if you missed it, but it came out 1 a.m. last night. So there was a massive meeting at the Monder after his attack the Salmon. Everyone was there. I had sources inside. I wasn't there. I'll be there later today. But everyone was there. The community was up in arms, to say the least, from the thing there. But the Monders and the Hindu Federation have put out a statement. All politicians in Canada are now banned from the Monders. They can pray. Everyone can pray in the Monders. You can pray. No more politics in the Monders unless you take Khalistan seriously. So as far as I'm concerned, there's only 3 Canadian politicians I'm aware of right now that allowed in the Monders. Chandra Arya of the Liberal Party mentioned Khalistan. Kevin Vaughn, independent MP from Spadina Fort York. And Goldie Gamari, an MPP in Ontario, has called out the Khalistanis. But the Hindu Monders have now have pretty strongly said, you don't get to come and pander to our community unless you take this seriously. And this is the first major step the community has taken. So I'm very hopeful that now there's actually pressure being put on them that they will do something. So this is your...
very clearly, the political leadership in Canada should realize there are 8,28,000 approximately Hindus in Canada. There are 7,72,000 Sikhs in Canada, and together the Hindus and Sikhs are a very formidable force, much more powerful than these Khalistani thugs who we'll be exposing day in and day out here on India Today with all our guests. Many thanks for joining me. Do keep one thing in mind. We go by what the Guru Sahib said. De Shiva bar mohe ehe, shubh karman se kapahu na daru ari soh jab jaye larau, nishchay kar apni jeet.